Greetings viewer, welcome! So you're interested in installing a Duprin Keyed removable mullion? Well, you're in luck. The YouTube search algorithm has worked in your favor. We will be installing a mullion bar for this double door shown here. Let's unpack it. Inside you'll find the bar and a box containing the installation instructions, lock-in mullion assembly, back cover plate, bottom and top mullion fitting, expansion anchors, top mullion fitting shim, another plastic bag containing various screws, the hex key, and mortar cylinder fasteners. Use the same small box to hold the plastic bag items in. You don't want to lose anything here. Okay, let's begin the assembly. First, start by installing the small hex screw that's packed with the expansion anchors into the back of the bottom mullion fitting. This screw has a small ball bearing on one end. This will secure the mullion bar at the bottom so it doesn't rattle. You can use the package hex key for this. Make sure to keep the tip of the screw from protruding out the other side. Next, install the very small hex screw into the back end of the top mullion fitting. You will need to provide your own hex key for this. And be careful, the thread lock on the screw can make this a bit tricky. Leave a light 1/8 of screw protruding out, a heavy 1/16. Don't screw it in all the way until it's flush. Onto the cylinder. Please note that this is the top end orientation of the lock-in mullion assembly. Use a cylinder ring. This usually stops the cylinder at the optimum position. Insert the cylinder into the lock-in mullion assembly, but position the key slot sideways horizontally with the tail end towards the lock-in pin lever. This will give the cylinder tail maximum reach to activate the pin lever. If you position the cylinder key slot normally, vertically, you will only have about half the reach to the pin lever. This will not be enough to throw the lock-in lever, and you will have to disassemble the lock-in mullion assembly in order to activate it with your finger if the bar was installed without testing it first. With that said, while inserting the cylinder, you also have to slide it through the cylinder lock-in washer. Position the U-shape of the washer downwards with the single turn-up end towards the bottom of the mullion assembly. This will fit it just under the pin lever. Now install the cylinder lock nut. Be careful not to cross-thread it. You might have to retract the cylinder a little somewhat in order to place the lock-in nut. Once you have finger tightened as much as you can, you will have to use a flathead screwdriver or the like in order to finish securing it. Do not over-tighten. You can snap that ring. Do a test here to make sure the pin lever retracts. Next, install the back cover plate with the recessed end towards the top of the mullion assembly using the 4 small security screws. You will need to use the supplied hex key. Just keep it snug. Don't lock these down yet. Onto the door frame. Find the center of the head opening, square a line here and mark it with a big C for center. You don't want to mistake another line for your center line. You will end up with a slanted mullion bar. From that line, lay out the overall width of the top mullion fitting. Square these up too. Next, you will need to plumb down from that center line and make a mark on the floor or threshold if one is installed. Don't find the bottom center by measuring unless you have no other choice. Door frames are not usually that plumb. Square these line up and once again mark it with a big C for center. Time to drill and tap for the 2 screws being used for the top mullion fitting. Hold the open end with a hex screw into the room while keeping the other end flush to the doorstop and centered between the outer layouts. Trace out both the circular and the elongated hole. Drill and tap the center of these 2 layouts. Be careful of what you're drilling into. Now install the top mullion fitting using the 2 pan-head screws and lock washers. I also had to make a spacer out of composite shims to fill the offset between the doorstop and the jamb face. If you want to be a bit more cautious, you can drill and tap just the elongated hole for now. This will give you some allowance to make any adjustments to the way the top mullion fitting looks. Then when you're happy, drill and tap the smaller fixed hole. This is what I did here. But don't tap that hole with the fitting in position. You will break your top for sure. I also used one of the shorter screws that came with the expansion anchors as a 3rd screw in the elongated hole. Now for the bottom mullion fitting. Lay out the width of the fitting and square those lines up. Close both doors and mark the face of both doors and to the ground or threshold. Mark a happy medium between these 2 locations if the door is scissored. This will be where the face of the bottom mullion fitting will sit. Highlight with a Sharpie if possible. I'll have to cut out the threshold here in order to fit the shoe. Drill out the 2 corners and finish out with a grinder. If you're working on a finished floor, make sure the sparks are going towards the outside. Use a cold chisel to clean up the corners. Check for fit. I'll use some composite shim to fill the offset between the finished floor and the subfloor. Now secure the fitting. I'm using 1/4" top cons, but you can and should use the supplied expansion anchors. Okay, both top and bottom fittings are installed. Place the lock-in mullion assembly into position and hold it in place using clamps. Now measure from the top face of the bottom fitting to the bottom door side edge of the mullion assembly. Make sure you're not measuring from the tabs on the bottom fitting. This will be the length of your bar. You should also use the provided formula to determine the bar length. If both numbers matches, you're good. They're usually about a 1/16 difference. Red flag and any major difference. Run those numbers again. There are usually 2 small holes located on both sides of the bar near the edge. These are for the exit device strike, but more importantly, this will be the door side of the bar, and also the side you will make your starting cut. Label it as door or strike in order to prevent a mistake, as I did here. The bottom of the mullion bar has a warning label, "Do not cut." Mark a cut length on the bar, square your line up and then make an undercut line. You want the back cut to be a little less than the face cut. That way, the lock-in mullion assembly fits tight and straight to the bar. On a square cut, you will most likely end up with the back end longer than the front end, and this will make the overall length of the bar longer. Go ahead and prime that raw edge. Even though the bar is inside, the built-in AC will make it sweat, and eventually you will see rust stains on the bar. Time to put the two pieces together. Slide the lock-in mullion assembly over the top back end of the bar. This will place the key cylinder opposite of the side marked door or stripe. And because of the undercut you made, we'll also keep it tight to the door side. Use the clamps and a bead of black to fit into place. Now test it before drilling any holes. Adjust as needed. Once satisfied, go ahead and drill out the 4 holes. When you finish drilling, make sure to carefully pick up the bar while holding the top end higher than the bottom. This will keep all the metal shavings out of the head. You can also highlight the 4 holes and drill them out without the headpiece in place. Insert the 2 6 bolts and secure using the 2 security screws and hex key provided. Notice that one side of the mullion assembly has a countersink, which is the screw side, and the other side is flat, the 6 bolt side. You can go ahead and set these 2 screws. Then finish up by setting the 4 smaller security screws. Be careful here, you can snap the head of these screws very easily. Now insert and test the bar for excessive rattling. Adjust that small hex screw as needed. You want a slight rattle. A super slight fit might not work all the time. Once satisfied, go ahead and finish securing that bottom hex screw, the one with the ball bearing washer on the end. Congrats! You've just installed a mullion bar. Some things to be mindful of when installing a mullion bar. Make sure both doors are of equal size when finding the center of the door opening. I've seen 6-foot jamb opening that had a 4 and 2-foot door getting a mullion bar. That moves the center line just a tad to one side. Look for that label mark in the bottom of the bar. This is because the strike press on the bar is at the height of your exit device. If the label is missing, measure the bar and use a smaller number as your bottom. If there's no door in place, you can find the location of the bottom mullion fitting by snapping a chalk line from one door stop to the next. This will give you the best average location of how the door will sit. After cutting the bar, Remember to clear out the metal shavings that's inside the bar and prime that cut to prevent rust. Thank you for your time.